I am here with Scott Bailey, class of 1999. Just before we get going, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Beamer's Drive-In and American Engineering. Thank you guys for supporting Inside Argus Soccer and just Argus Soccer in general. So, Scott Bailey here, once again, class of 99, 80 total appearances. Oh my goodness, these numbers. 94 all-time goals, second all-time in Argus history, 49 assists, first, and you've held the record since you've graduated. 19 goals as a freshman. That's first. I mean, that's just insane alone. In your 4 years, all state teams, second team all state teams, four conference titles. Oh my goodness. Just absolutely insane stuff. And we're just going to start from the beginning here. Scott, when did you start playing?
Yeah, I mean, just like anybody else, started when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what grade. I think it might have been, first or second grade. The first year, was terrible. I was horrible. I hurt my toe. Didn't want to play. I tried to go to a practice. Um, didn't want to do it. And then
Mm-hmm.
the second year was much different, and just kind of took off. Had a great coach for a long time, the late Ted Hummel. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
know about Ted Hummel or not, but he was great for me and a lot of the guys my age. He kind of just took us under his wing and got a team together kind of before travel even really took off. He got us together and we played indoor soccer and did some travel stuff. And I think that was a great thing for us when we got to high school.
Oh yeah. What boosted and what started that love for soccer that you brought with you?
I think just playing at school with the friends at
Mm-hmm.
recess, we were all super competitive, and every recess we wanted to win, no matter whose team we were on. If it was fourth against fifth, or you're 10 years old, you're on this team, and you're 11 and 12, you're on this team, or whatever we wanted to make up. Just that competitiveness that all of us guys had, just to want to play.
Oh yeah. When you were growing up, did you have any heroes like on those Argus soccer teams that you were looking up to, like if you were in elementary school or junior high?
I didn't go to a lot of the games when I was in elementary.
Hmm.
It'd be more of like when you're in junior high. I
Yeah.
had an older sister that was in high school, so then I started going to the games and watching the older players. There's a few years older than I was. Um, my parents or my dad was on the team, but that was long before I was around. But just kind of those older teams that were 4 or 5 years older than I was when I was in seventh and eighth grade. I can't really remember a lot of the guys' names, but I remember thinking, I couldn't wait to get up to that age and start doing what they were doing. Kind of looking
Oh
up
yeah.
to those guys.
Hmm. For sure. So your youth teams had a ton of success in those old Hoosier State games.
Yeah.
Um, just go through, take us through, let us pick your brain about how those tournaments worked and just the process of getting those teams to where they got.
Um, yeah, so the first one we ever did was the Whitewater games, and I think the first year we did it, I think at the time Ted Elmo, I think he was probably pretty green with the whole travel thing, and he put us in
Mhm.
a pretty elite group, and we were not ready for that yet, and we got smoked. Um, and then the following year, we kind of um, he must have put us in a different league, and then we were more competitive. Um, I think we got down to state that year because you had to play a tournament before to get down there. And if I remember right, we lost in shootouts.
Mm.
And then the following year after that, we won it 2 years in a row and kind of just coasted through those matches. Then there was no competition. So that was 2 or 3 years we won it. I can't remember how many years, back to back to back, but that was a great opportunity for us to start playing at a competitive level. And then
Oh yeah.
also and then we did the indoor league stuff, which helped a lot too.
Hmm. For sure. So he never played soccer Argus, but Ted Hummel had a massive impact on your generation of players. What was it like to grow up learning the game from him and just him coaching you and coaching your teams?
Yeah, I mean his background. I mean he was from Brazil, so he brought a
Oh wow.
lot, and So yeah, I'm pretty sure he was born. I think he was raised in Brazil. I'm not sure when he moved over. Philip would be the one that talked about that. His son,
Hmm.
that whole
Hmm.
background. Philip's dad, Ted, also took me and a couple other guys to a World Cup soccer game when it was here in
Oh, cool.
'94. I think it was. It was Brazil against Italy. So
Hmm.
that was at that time I didn't realize the magnitude of it. That
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
probably be the only one I'd ever go to, and it has been. So, um, when you're 13 years old, you don't realize that. But now that I'm 45, I do. Um, but yeah, Ted was awesome. I still a lot of the stuff that he did in practice, I'd even do when I was coaching. I've coached for 20 years in elementary, so a lot of things we did in practice, I still do.
Hmm.
So his what he ingrained in me is still going. So it's
Good.
just kind of a neat thing.
Good. And you will have another chance if you would like to go to a World Cup game. I know they're coming back for the next one. So,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
uh, so moving on into your high school career more, what made you, I know you said you talked about, those high school teams, like when you were in junior high, you would watch them and stuff, but what made you the most excited to play for Argus for high school?
I mean, the tradition, obviously.
Hmm.
I knew that the group of guys that was a year older than me and my age, we had a lot of success, and I was hoping that we could continue that through high school.
Right.
And some of the older guys too, that were seniors, we had a good run that freshman year. Um, we could have probably went a little bit further. Um, the competition was pretty tough then too. And then the following year, we had an off year. That sophomore year, we had a lot of things happen. And then my junior senior year, is when we really made a really big deep run and
Hmm.
went undefeated almost 2 years in a row. And we got ranked super high. Before class was even around,
Right.
my senior year we were ranked third in the state
Hmm.
overall, ranked third. I think my junior year was probably a little bit better. We were a little bit deeper. We lost to the state champions 2 years in a row, and I do know that my junior year, um, it was Canterbury that beat us. They actually said to our coach that we were the toughest team they played all year, including the state finals.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that kind of meant a lot that maybe, another day we could have got there. So, yeah,
Hmm.
that junior, senior year, my junior year and senior year was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you wore the number 14. Was there any significance to choosing that number, or did your coach just take the shirt out of the box, say, here you go?
It kind of goes back, and I still use this before, and I don't know if anybody else has said it. Ted Elmo,
Hmm.
during that time, Pele was big. 10 was, the number you want to have was number 10.
Hmm.
But he said the number doesn't make the player. The player makes the number.
Hmm.
So it was just a number that I got, and then I just held on to it forever. And even through college awards too. So that's
Yeah.
just how it was. I just kind of wanted to make that number, and I don't know if it continued on after I left. Like if any of the guys are like, I want to have number 14 or not, but you know, hopefully maybe that's a little lasting legacy with it. I don't know.
Well, I know a couple there. I know in Argus it's like seven, and I know 14 was one of them because my brother wore it and he was like, "Yes, I got it." So it lasted a while. I'll say
Yeah.
that much. It lasted a while. Who were some of your teammates that you admired the most that you played with, and why?
The guys I played with forever. I mean, man, there's so many of them. Basically, I got started my defense in the back. I had strong defense. In high school, I had Doug Heckman was back there, Eric Stoltz. I think
Mm.
Andy Emanecker was back there. And then I got my midfield in there. That was Philip and Tom Ummel, Chris Kessler, Chad Kenny. Those guys, held the midfield, and then I was up front. And for a couple of years, was with Ryan Nifong, and then um, I think Chad Kenny moved up there a little bit. So I mean, really, all those guys and our goalie. I mean, Brent Johnson. I think he still holds the record for. We have the record for the most shutouts in a season. That
Mm.
junior year, I mean, if we weren't winning by 4 or 5 to 0 by halftime, it was kind of rare, and they rarely
That's
got a goal
insane.
on us. So it
Oh,
was, and that was like I said, we played some really tough competition. We met Evansville at the middle of the state and played against Evansville, and they were really good. played
Hmm.
Noblesville, St. Joe, a lot of the Fort Wayne schools, South Bend
Wow.
schools. So our schedule was, it was pretty stacked, and then that was good for us when it came to tournament time.
Hmm.
So,
For sure. Yeah, you see those tougher teams that'll better suit you for even tougher teams and come postseason. And
yeah.
it's probably weird mentioning Eric Stoltz about Argus without saying anything about baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Him and I were best friends growing up. I
Oh
mean, we
yeah.
just lived around the corner from each other.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And then, when he was playing professional baseball, I got to go out to California and stay at his
Hmm.
place and watch him pitch. He took me in the clubhouse.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was really cool. So
Oh, I bet that was
pretty
so
neat.
cool.
I
In
mean,
in
yeah.
San Diego or LA?
San Diego.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
either way, that's so cool. Oh,
So yeah.
so
We
jealous
keep
of
in
that.
touch, chat. We keep in touch a little bit. Him and I's birthday are almost on the same days, a couple of days apart. So usually I
Hmm.
send a text right around our birthdays, just saying
Yeah.
we're getting another year older and stuff. So,
Hmm.
and
No,
his dad
awesome.
still lives around the corner from us. So I just talked to him the other day, actually.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's awesome. What were some of your strengths that you could identify as a player?
the biggest one was the speed. I mean, at the time I didn't realize it, but now, that I'm older, I realize that speed was a big one. Um,
Hmm.
my speed, I mean, I had a pretty strong kick, and I was able to finish the ball a lot.
Yeah.
But also playing off my teammates too. I mean, my teammates. I mean, I can't take all the credit for all the goals that I had. I mean, I couldn't do all that by myself, obviously.
Yeah.
So just playing off my teammates, and the speed was a big one. And when I got to college, then everybody's just as fast as you are. So
Right. Right.
then you had to pick up some other creative things to do. Your footwork, how to get better, your touches.
Mhm.
Thinking ahead, that type of stuff. In high school, it was just a different league. So,
Right. What were some of your favorite moments playing for Coach Van Dyne?
um, oh man, obviously a lot of the bigger games are. I mean, it's always neat that when Spencer posts the great goals or whatever, it's kind of like
Hmm.
thinking back and seeing those, like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that one, or I don't remember that
Well,
one at
I mean,
all.
yeah, there were so many. It's hard to remember all of them. I mean, 94 goals.
Yeah. There was a couple that I do remember. But just the big wins and things like that. Practices, before season practices, those are always kind of fun. The 2 mile run that we used to always do.
Hmm.
Um, those were fun. So it wasn't just always the games, but the practices, the camaraderie with the guys, after the games. Um, we'd always go to somebody's house after the games lots of times to just hang out. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, some of the bigger games, I can, kind of think of, the rival against Plymouth was always a big one. Always wanting to
Hmm.
beat them. C-Mays were always a big games too. Um, but yeah, it was a good time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Of course, as I just said multiple times now, 94 goals. But out of all of those, do you have a favorite one that you've scored?
Um, it's probably that the bicycle kick. It was kind of in that
Mm-hmm.
video that Spencer put out with some of the greatest goals or no,
Hmm.
at Argus. Then it wasn't very clear, but I do remember the bicycle kick because that was, sometimes kids do a bicycle, but they're just kind of falling backwards and putting their foot up.
Right.
This one
Right.
was a legit in the air. Your legs are scissoring, and
Oh, yeah.
if I remember right, it was not. It hit the goal about upper 92, so and it was in a sectional finals game too. It wasn't against a
Hmm.
tough team, but it was one of my favorite goals I can remember. Yeah, and then some diving headers were always the fun ones. Um, and then at the time, it's just a celebration after with the guys too. That was always
Right.
fun. The guys coming down too and celebrating with me.
For sure. After finding some of the footage from your playing days, seemed like when you see celebrations were often knee slides. Was that always your go-to, or was there another
I
one you like doing?
No, that was just one I just kind of did. I don't know. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't have cable or satellite to watch any of the professionals, so I really didn't
Hmm.
know what their celebrations were. It was just something that I did. When we played those late nights, you get to do underground and you could slide a long
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
I don't know. It was just something I always did, and then some of the other guys had other stuff, but that's just. It was, my wife said something about it, and I said usually I only did those on the big games. Some other
Gotcha.
games that were,
Mhm.
not close or we were up quite a bit, it was just, high fives with the guys. But it was usually the bigger games that I would do that with. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
why.
Saving those for Culver Academy and Bethany Christian.
Yeah.
In '96, your sophomore year, you were unfortunately sent off during sectional semifinal against Plymouth. Missed the final, where Argos ultimately fell to the academy. Uh, how do you feel the ending of your sophomore year? Did that motivate you in your next 2 years?
Yeah, I would say definitely it did. I mean, that was a kind of a, we had Ryan Nifong that year, and him and I were usually up top, and he had broke his collarbone.
Mm,
Um, I think in sectionals or just before sectionals. So he was out, and then I got the red card. Um,
mhm.
so that following year, definitely we knew we were really deep that year too. My junior year and the other guys the senior years. I think they had 11 seniors and we had 11 juniors, so we were super deep.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And that was the year that we went 21-0. We didn't lose until we played Canterbury, and yeah, like I said, most of those games we were done. The game was over by halftime.
Mhm.
So yeah, and if we got scored on, we were like, oh man, how did that happen? Because it was rare that we ever got scored on because our
Right.
defense was so tough. But yeah, it definitely motivated us get our season, and I think I don't know if it was that year. It must have been my sophomore year before the season started. Um, our goalie Brent Johnson, he had appendicitis, so he was out for a while too.
Mhm.
But yeah, it definitely motivated us to kind of have a little revenge on that year before in the sectionals. I
For
like
sure.
the one it say we won it all 4 years in a row because I think we could have went deep that year too.
Mhm. So that '97 team, the ultimate fall to Canterbury in semi-state. Just what was it like to be a part of that team? How was that tournament run, and what was any details about that game against Canterbury?
Yeah, I mean I don't know if you watched it or seen it or talked to anybody about it, but they were extremely very talented team. They had a couple
Mhm.
players that went on to play for IU. They had the Player of the Year for the state of Indiana, which I ended up actually playing against in college too.
Mhm.
But it we had an opportunity to tie the game up. It was 1-0, and we had a corner kick, and they crossed it over in the corner kick, and Eric Stoltz actually came up and headed it in, and it was
Mhm.
1-1. We came back. They're going to kick it off, and Canterbury started yelling and saying the flagsman said it was out, that it had curved out and came back in,
Mhm.
and the ref went down and talked to him, and then they reversed it, and then they had a goal kick, and then they poked another one in later, and that was it. We never really had another opportunity. But they were a
Yeah.
very good team. I mean, very, very well skilled. Um, but, I think if we would have held them 1-1, it could have ended up a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So, and then the following year, we played them again in semi state, and we were loaded with injuries that year, too. The seniors were. I was
Mhm.
injured super bad. I had pulled my groin really bad. Our main defender, Doug Heckerman, he had an ACL injury. He was hobbling around, and two, three other guys were injured. So, and we held them there until halftime that our senior year. It was 0-0 at halftime, and then we just couldn't keep going. So, but I think if it was a reverse, if we would have had that team, my senior year, if we would have played that team, we would have beat them because they weren't as
Mhm.
deep either.
Gotcha. So a couple stats about that team in '97. 21 wins and 15 clean sheets. Clean sheets being zero, like allowing no goals for anyone that doesn't know that. Yeah, both are program records, and you only gave up 9 goals that entire year. What made that '97 team so dominant?
I think I mean, it really did start back when Ted Elmo, put that a lot of those guys together, and by the time we got to high school, we just kind of knew our role. Pretty much everybody
Mm-hmm.
was in the same positions. There was a few kids that moved around on the field, the junior, senior year, but it made us even deeper. But everybody just knew the role, and there was no jealousy or with anybody, with anything. We just all got along. Everybody was excited for everybody that made a play. No
Mm-hmm.
selfishness at all at any point in time, I felt like. Um, Everybody just did their job, and I think that's what it was. The defense knew they kept it from scoring. The midfield knew they had to advance the ball, and my job was to finish the ball, and we just that's what we did.
Yeah.
And then, if I scored, it was not just me, it was all the guys that got the ball up there with me. So I think that was a big one. Just, starting young, everybody knew their role. And,
Mhm.
yeah, we just all gelled together so well.
And I know me and Chino Roque talked about it last week a little bit, but Argus with how kind of small the school is, that does make a massive difference because you're playing with all the same guys from like third grade up until you graduate. So
Yeah.
there definitely is that chemistry built along the way, and it goes a long way.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
from yeah, so from '97 to '98, you guys pulled together 36 regular season wins, which is unheard of in 2 years. It's nuts. But the win ended with a loss against Bethany in that last regular season game in '98. Um, how awesome was that run, and how rough was that loss?
Yeah, that run was pretty sweet. I mean, like I said, in my senior year, we weren't quite as deep, because we had lost 11 or 12 seniors, but we still had 11 or 12 seniors starting. We had some good underclassmen also. We had a couple close games. We weren't, some games weren't over at halftime that year, but, we were able to, find a way to win. I think we had a tie in there.
Mm-hmm.
We just, we had enough grit to find a way to win. And when we played at Bethany, like I said, I was injured and my groin was, I had a hard time even sitting in class. I was going to getting electrodes put into it. And then, like I said, some of our defensive guys were injured. But then I think they beat us. I can't remember, but I know they had at least two PKs that were I'm not going to say who the ref was, but the ref kind of played that game big time. They were totally bogus goal kicks that they got,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just us banged up. And I think that actually, put us in perspective before the tournament run came. Right, it was the game before sectionals, and it kind of made us step back, like, hey, we can't have this happen during the tournament run. So
Right.
in a way, it kind of helped us. But yeah, that team the Bethany team should never beat us, but that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you play the game.
Right. Playing on some of the best teams Argus soccer has ever produced. I know you've said some things about those Canterbury games and everything. But what were some of those tournament runs like just throughout all 4 years you played? Just describe some of your feelings and how you guys kind of prepared for those matches.
Yeah, I mean, you always got to come in confident, but deep down inside, you got the nerves. Like, if you don't win, you're done. And
Right.
especially um, when you have a season, the 2 seasons that we had, that junior and senior year, where everybody's kind of out to get you. They just want to knock you off, and then they'll do whatever they have to do that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they're nerve wracking and also fun. When it's all said and done and looking back on it. Um, yeah, just we just got to take what we had done all summer and fall, and kind of put it towards each game, and um, each one of us did our part, um, and we were successful there for quite a while too. So
Mhm.
yeah, they were fun. The meals. Also, you talked about the meal dinners before, and meet with the guys and things like that. And I was just reminiscing with somebody else about eating before the night before the games and things like that. So
Right. Yeah. Your family has huge ties to the program. Your dad, Lyndon, your uncle Tim, and nephew Owen all won a state title. Your
yeah.
uncle Dennis, brother Chad, brother-in-law Andy, your cousins Kurt, Kip, and Ryan all played on successful teams. How special was that to have your name and the Nifong's name to have such great stories in the program?
Yeah, that's neat. That's always neat to look back on and see that, and see the banners up there for everybody.
Hmm.
Um, wish I could have got one up there for them, but wasn't able to do that. But yeah, it's always neat. I have a son, and he didn't end up going to Argus and things like that, but um, he's playing football right now, and he's doing a good job with that.
Yeah,
And he's played soccer and tried travel soccer for quite a while, but he switched over to schools now, and they don't have soccer, so he's doing football,
yeah.
and he's the punter now. So he's the kicker. He punts everything, and a lot of his kickoffs are pretty close to what the high school's doing. So um,
Good.
maybe it won't be for soccer; it'll be a different football. But maybe he'll be able to kind of get another Bailey name in a different football area.
Yeah, yeah. Right on. You graduated from Argos, and then you went on to play D1 at now PFW, then IPFW in Fort Wayne. How was your college career, and did Argus soccer help prepare you for that?
Yeah, it did. I mean, when you go from a high school team to a Division One, that's a big jump. It's a
Yeah,
really big jump. And when I first got there, we were Division Two for a year, then we went Division One. Just from
mm-hmm.
Division Two to Division One was a huge jump. Um, when you get there, everybody, like I said, is just as fast as you are. They're bigger than you are, you know, stronger than you are at times. So um, there was, it took a good year for me to uh, pick up on everything and just learn kind of a new system of playing too.
Yeah,
We did do some passing, not as much as the high schools do now, and a lot more passing is going on at the high school than it did when I was, there. But we did quite a bit of passing. But college, passing was the biggest thing you did. You advance the ball up instead of the kind of the through ball. But we did some of that too. But yeah, you just, I played against some really good players that went on to play professional. I remember one guy, I think it was from North Carolina. We played North Carolina, and one leg was as big as both of mine. I thought my legs were big.
man.
He's a big guy. Um, but we played, I got to travel a lot. We played against IU, and we played Duke, Notre Dame, and things like that. So that was always neat to play some of those big name schools throughout the
Oh yeah,
country. Then traveling was kind of neat. I got to play on the East Coast, the West Coast. We were one game away from going to the finals my freshman year down to Florida to
mm-hmm.
play down to Miami. So we didn't get down there. That would have been the Final Four. Um, but yeah, the traveling was neat, but after a while, it kind of got kind of tiring
Yeah.
traveling so much.
Oh yeah, understandable. Um, so a little bit. These are more rapping questions, not necessarily about soccer, but still about soccer. Um,
Yeah.
who is one player from any Argus team from when we started in '63 to today that you would have loved to play with in your career?
Probably Jeff Odell. I heard a lot
Mm-hmm.
about him. When I was in high school, he'd come in and play a little bit with the guys. Um, and then, he was the goal scorer that, I was able to elapse.
Mm-hmm.
He had 89, and then I was able to pass him. But just talking to some other guys, how great he was with the ball, and probably a great playmaker he was. I think he would have been fun to play with, play off each other.
Oh
I
yeah,
think he probably be one of the ones I'd have to say.
gotcha. What has it been like to follow Argus soccer since your playing days, if you have at all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, when Owen was there playing, I was kind of following him and following the games and going to some of the games. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of neat to see how the game has evolved. Like I was just saying, how the passing is more emphasized than it once was. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when it first started, it was just kickball. You just kicked it and ran. And I think we were kind of in the mixture of we did some of that because we did have a lot of speed and I was fast, but then we also did control the ball too.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think it seems to be a lot more controlling than so much speed. I mean, you got to have speed, but the ball now does more of the work than the runners do.
Right. And that's been a conversation I've had with some of the guys from the older teams. They would say like, yeah, speed was like our main thing. So you were kind of in that transition of like
I think we were kind of a
running kick
hybrid of the
and the tactical part of the game.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of the hybrid of that, and I think we're pretty good at both of them. And I think that
Hmm.
Canterbury team that did beat us, they were more tactical with the ball, and that's why
Yeah.
were able to beat us.
Gotcha. Um, so a little deeper now towards the end. What do you think makes a successful Argus soccer player? Like just some traits you think makes a good one.
Um, Hard working and desire. Just
Hmm.
have that desire to go out on your own and practice, and do the drills. The stuff when people aren't watching. You got to have that. That's what I had. I grew up on a farm, and Dad built a goal out of just pipes, and that's why I went
Hmm.
out and practiced in my yard. I didn't have a fancy goal with nets. I think my backstop was a chicken fence. So just taking that desire to go out, and I set buckets out. I didn't have cones.
Hmm.
I just set buckets out and dribbled around those, and
Yeah.
I'd watch just videos, VHS videos of players doing stuff, and then I'd go
Hmm.
out and practice that. Now it's so much easier. They can just type it on the computer, or on their
Right.
phone and watch it out there in the yard. They got to have that that desire to go out and want to do it by themselves, and not anybody asking them to, or staying after practice and doing the extra shots, the free kicks, that type of stuff. If
Hmm.
you got to have that to get to the next level for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and I've seen that, with other sports, with players that I have coached over the years, they've had that. So
Yeah.
you're definitely going to have that desire. If you don't have that, you could have mom and dad telling you to do that or making you do that. But if you don't have that, you want to do it, then, the success is not going to be there like you think it should be.
Right. And one last question. What does Argus soccer mean to you?
Oh, I mean, it means a lot. I mean, for me, what it allowed me to get to where I am today in the sense that I was able to earn a scholarship that paid for my schooling, that allowed
Hmm.
me to leave college debt free, and then start life with my wife, and go from there. I mean, if it
Hmm.
wasn't for that, I may not have ended up at that school with a scholarship, got a degree.
Yeah.
So I owe a lot to the Argus, system to where I am now. No, back then I couldn't have predicted that or guessed that, but looking back, I can. So and it means extremely a lot to me. And it's also so neat to watch the success the program has. I think I just saw they won their 38th conference or something like that. Can't
Yeah,
remember what
something
I
like
said.
that. It's an insane number. It
So
really
it's kind of
is.
cool to see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Scott, thank you for joining. This has been awesome. One of the best to do it to ever wear Argus on his chest. Um, I don't even have anything more to like anything else to say. This was just so awesome getting to talk to you about this. I know people are going to be so excited to see this come out.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Beamers Drive-In and American Energy. This was Inside Argus Soccer. Scott, thanks for joining.